Right now, we're going to focus on how to run the most engaging weekly leadership team meetings you've ever experienced. How's that for a tall order? The reason I can make such a bold promise is because I've seen it deliver over and over and over again. It works if you work it. We simply call this meeting the weekly. I know it's not super creative, but sometimes we like to just call things what they actually are. The weekly is a 90-minute meeting with your executive leadership team that must take place on the same day and time every single week. Always start on time. Always end on time. Every leader must be fully present without distractions, no emailing, texting, or doing other stuff. The weekly is where you and your executive leadership team will share what's happening, monitor progress, hold one another accountable, grow in transparency, strengthen team unity, discover the most pressing opportunities, and create next steps together. Rumble well, more on that to come, and determine what information needs to be shared with others. Now, some of you may be thinking this sounds ridiculous or even impossible to accomplish in only 90 minutes. However, organizations that fly on the Next Level Nonprofit Operating System can tell you from years of experience, they make it happen every single week. Most importantly, I want you to know that your team can get to a place where you will make better decisions faster than you currently do, and in such a way that team members will be truly united. Here's what the structure of your weekly looks like. Highs and lows, 5 minutes. Focus time, 5 minutes. Scoreboard review, you guessed it, 5 minutes. The W3s, this is who, what, when. Imagine that, 5 minutes. Quarterly priorities, 5 minutes. And now we're getting to the meat, or veggies if you prefer, of the meeting. Opportunities, next steps. This is where we spend 60 minutes of the meeting. And finally, we do a wrap up in the final 5 minutes. Now, we're going to unpack and explain each of these sections. Highs and lows. These are one-sentence headlines about each noteworthy, positive or negative event or activity that happened within the last week. These are both personal and professional. This brief portion of the weekly accomplishes a lot when it comes to knowledge sharing and even trust building. The purpose of personal highs and lows is to foster relational connectivity between the leaders in the room. An example of a personal high is, I got to attend the Super Bowl last week and the Lions won. I'll let that sink in. A personal low could be, we had to put our dog down yesterday. Sharing personal highs and lows will come naturally to some team members who enjoy opening up. However, other team members may prefer to remain silent at first. The best way to encourage all team members to share openly is to take the first step in sharing openly yourself. Over time, you'll create an environment where everyone can feel safe to be their authentic and transparent selves. The purpose of professional highs and lows is to share important bits of information so that everyone is in the know. Professional highs and lows could be about things that are happening internally in the organization, or they could be about a client, donor, partner, etc. A professional high report on one of your donors might be, Sally Jones just became a first-time donor with her $10,000 initial gift. A professional low on one of your donors might sound like this. John Smith was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer last week, and we're gathering tomorrow at 9 a.m. in the conference room to pray for him. Before we move on, I want to make sure you know that it's essential that no discussion ensues during this time or any other section of this meeting until we get to the opportunities next steps portion of the weekly. The individuals who list their highs and lows merely state them, and then the next person shares. This is fairly rapid fire, never more than 3 sentences per item, and every high and low should be typed and input into your Next Level software prior to the meeting so that everyone can see them on the screen. Focus time. As we transition from celebrating highs and lamenting lows, focus time centers are a team in preparation for what comes next in the meeting. Someone may lead the team in a meditation, motivational reading, prayer, or a time of silence. This could be as simple as saying a prayer, playing a pre-recorded meditation using a popular app, or even reading a poem. We found that because we allow a wide variety of expressions during this time, all team members are willing to lead this activity at some point, and experiencing different styles and perspectives on focus time helps keep our team inspired. Scoreboard review. Your scoreboard is a list of the 4 to 12 most important metrics that can be measured numerically each week. Each accountable team member reads their number and states on track or off track. As stated before, there is zero discussion during this segment. However, once all numbers have been reported, the facilitator asks if any of the scoreboard items need to be dropped down to opportunities next steps for discussion. If yes, merely drop it down without discussion until the proper time. The W3s: what, who, when. Every time an ELT member makes a commitment during the weekly meeting, it's recorded. These commitments are generally due within the next 7 to 14 days, so each meeting includes a review and verification of the previous week's commitments. We call it the W3s because each commitment must concisely state what must be done, the accountable team member who, and the due date when. If the commitment is off track, then the accountable team member updates the date the task will be completed. If any discussion is needed, drop this item down to opportunities next steps. Here's a pro tip. Mark done on all W3s you've completed before the meeting so that your time together can be even more productive. There's no need to even mention done items, but make sure you celebrate all team members who consistently do what they say they're going to do. Quarterly priorities. Each accountable team member reads their quarterly priorities, aka QPs, and states on track, off track, or done. Again, if any discussion is needed, drop this item down to opportunities next steps. This section is the heart of the weekly, and you're going to spend 60 of your 90 minutes right here. What are opportunities? Opportunities are the problems, challenges, or issues your organization is currently experiencing. However, we use the word opportunities to label them because that's what they truly are when we see them from a growth mindset. Whenever we start to discuss the next opportunity, we begin by narrowing down the core nuance. Often the way the statement is communicated at first is not actually the root opportunity that needs to be discussed. Therefore, it's important for the facilitator to help your team drill down to the single focus at the core and determine what you're actually hoping to accomplish before beginning the discussion. This will significantly narrow your focus. If your team members trust one another, and if you enter into these discussions bravely, this 60-minute portion will be filled with healthy amounts of conflict, vulnerability, and what Brené Brown calls rumbling well. When Brené says someone or a team rumbles well, she means they show up with curiosity, not defensiveness. Instead of rushing to be right, they're committed to learning. They're willing to get uncomfortable. Real conversations about values, accountability, or mistakes aren't easy, but rumbling well means staying in the tension rather than avoiding it. They practice vulnerability, sharing feelings, fears, and hopes, even when it feels risky. This is part of the process. They keep the focus on connection and clarity. The goal isn't to win the argument, but to build trust and alignment. In short, rumbling well is about courageous, respectful, truth-seeking dialogue where people can disagree, wrestle with hard issues, and still come out stronger together. After you've rumbled well and you're ready to develop next steps, it's important for our team members to understand we aren't seeking to cure cancer in one swoop during our discussions. We are seeking to solve that which is getting in the way of our eventual discovery of the cure. Sometimes there's just one next step for an opportunity, and other times there are multiple steps. Each next step must be assigned to one and only one appropriate accountable team member, and add this to your W3s right then and there in the meeting. Now, if you have the tendency of being a perfectionist, I want to remind you of the principle of being 80% confident. One of our guiding principles is to make decisions when we have at least 80% confidence the next step is the right one. I'm not saying that you need 80% of team members to say they agree. I'm saying that each of your team members is at least 80% confident in the decision. When team members don't want to make decisions because they lack 100% confidence, this often comes from a mindset of fear or perfectionism, both of which can be cancerous to innovation. Therefore, we are very intentional to drive discussions toward next steps and decisions. Keep in mind, Next Level Nonprofit is latent with radical accountability for every action that team members take. So we're able to rapidly evaluate change on the fly and recalibrate decisions as needed. So, how do you decide what opportunities to talk about each week? We encourage all ELT members to add opportunities to the list before the upcoming weekly and come prepared to clearly articulate each one. We can also add opportunities to the list at any time during the weekly. However, the first thing we do when we get to this section of the meeting is we ask the team, what are the 3 most important opportunities we will discuss first? Now, sometimes team members want to pick the quickest and easiest items. Therefore, it's important for the facilitator or the pilot to guide the team to prioritize the most important and most time-sensitive opportunities. Once you get through the first 3, choose the next 3. So you might be wondering, how many opportunities will we solve each week? In part, that's going to depend on how complex each subject is. However, it depends far more on how skilled your team becomes at identifying the real heart of the opportunity and how well you can learn to move the discussion to the point of making decisions on next steps. We find that on average, organizations typically resolve 5 to 8 opportunities per weekly. And now it's time to wrap up. During the last 5 minutes of the weekly, you will cover the following basics. Recap W3s. Simply read off what commitments were made and by whom. Make sure no commitments made during this meeting have accidentally been left off the W3s list. What info needs to leave the room? Is there anything we discussed or decided today that needs to be shared with others inside and or outside the organization? If so, what and with whom? And who will be the accountable person to do the sharing in each of these cases? Lastly, how did we do as a team today? Use a grade range of A to F, yes, including pluses and minuses, to rate how you did as a team. You are simply asking each individual to assign their grade letter for the team today. To be clear, you are not rating the facilitator or the pilot's individual performance. You are rating how your entire team did as it relates to being prepared, being fully engaged, vulnerable, and action-oriented. At minimum, you want the team to score a B+. Now, a grade of A+ doesn't mean that this meeting was as thrilling as Disney World, but it does mean this is exactly how we all needed to engage today. At any time a team member assigns a grade below A-, the facilitator or pilot asks that person, from your perspective, what could have been done differently for our team to reach at least an A-. This person then provides a 1 or 2 sentence response. They may say, today I just wasn't fully present, and I'm the team member who needed to better engage. I know what I need to do, and I'm on it. Or they may say something like this while looking directly into the eyes of 2 of their team members. I really wanted to hear more from you today, Stacy and Daryl. I could be wrong, but I felt you may have had more to say, and I don't want our team to miss out on your geniuses. That's it. Now you know what it takes to run the most engaging weekly nonprofit leadership team meetings you've ever experienced. And now I'm handing it back over to your pilot to facilitate some additional discussion so that you can begin to experience truly remarkable weeklies as soon as possible.